before I started playing a specific series of games, I would think it's stupid in games, but now that I've played these games, I think is very nice. And what I'm talking about is bonding moments. Now, hear me out. This might sound weird to people who have never played a game with bonding moments, but this is something I see like in a lot of JRPGs now. And the game that I'm going to be referring to the most are the Trails games, like Trails of Cold Steel specifically in this case. Pretty much what bonding moments are is Trails games have a game loop. And just to put it very simply, the game loop is you have certain segments where you're playing at school. And when you're at school, you can bond with characters. You pretty much have bond tokens. You can spend some of them to bond with certain characters. And when you bond with them, you not only get like specific cutscenes to kind of like see character stuff about them, it actually helps you out in gameplay too. So like the more you bond with the character, the better your linking abilities will be and the better you can do in battle. Then once you're done with that, the next segment of the game is you go out of the school, you do fights and combat and stuff. And then you're back at the school and the game repeats like that. And so every time you're at school, you have bonding moments and pretty much you have a choice of who you want to bond with. And the farther you go in the game and the more bonded you are with the character, not only are they better in combat for you, but you also get different cutscenes based on who you're bonded with. And I always thought that was pretty interesting, especially because you can't bond with everyone. So for example, in Trails, say you're at school and there's like 5 characters you get to bond with at this point, they'll only give you like 2 bonding tokens. So you really have to pick who you bond with. And the reason why I think this is so interesting is because I'm going to keep this as vague as possible so there's no spoilers. But when I played Trails of Cold Steel, there was a moment where I picked this one character and I kind of like kept bonding with him. So he became like a really good friend of mine. And what ended up happening is they ended up being not a good guy. And when that happened, I was like, oh shit, that was like a heavy betrayal. Because when I was bonding with them, they kept adding more cutscenes with that person. So like I personally, as a human being, was like, oh shit, yeah, this guy's cool. And then when I got betrayed and found out they weren't a good guy, I was like, shit, that was insane. And the fact that I got that experience and some people might have not got that experience, and it's just because I chose to bond with that character, I thought that was very cool. And at the end of the day, I think bonding mechanics just make sense with Kingdom Hearts. Like Kingdom Hearts is a series based on like my friends are my power, we're homies, let's go. Like bonding is like a part of the series. So like the fact that they don't have bonding mechanics is pretty interesting to me. So I feel like that is something that could happen. Obviously, one change they would have to make that I noticed in every game that I played that had bonding mechanics is there has to be some kind of home base, because pretty much every game that I've played that has bonding mechanics, another example is Scarlet Nexus, is the bonding mechanics only happen at the base. So like there's a game loop where you get to go out in the world and do your battles. But once you're back at the base, that's when you get to talk to the other NPCs, learn about them, bond with them, get specific cutscenes, etc. And Kingdom Hearts hasn't really had that. They haven't had a home base. Now, why I think this might be something that might happen in Kingdom Hearts 4 is when they first talked about the new trailer where you see Sora in his apartment, I believe they mentioned that his apartment would be his home base for the initial part of the game. And when they mentioned that, I'm like, okay, so there is actually some kind of home base, at least for the initial part of the game. So there is possibly going to be another home base at some point. And at least the JRPGs I play, there always usually is a home base. Final Fantasy 16 is another example. It's like you have a home base, you're always there. And so if Kingdom Hearts also gets into the game loop where like, yeah, you go out into the worlds, you fight, and then you come to a specific home base and chill with the other NPCs. And if you go bond with them, I think that'd be pretty cool, especially if it meant that you not only get kind of like character moments that are kind of nice for the player playing, you also get story moments that will change based on who you bond with. But I think very importantly, you get gameplay moments where if you bond with someone, you have better linking abilities with them. Now, what can these linking abilities look like? In at least Trails of Cold Steel, there's kind of like little abilities that happen within battle that the more you bond with the character, the better it is. For example, say character A is bonded with character B. If you're just level 1 of bonding, something that might happen is if character A gets attacked by the bad guy, character B might jump in and block it for you because they're kind of homies. If you're more bonded, what might happen is if character A attacks a bad guy, character B will end your combo and do a stronger attack. And then the more bonded they are, the more they do stuff like that pretty much. So in Kingdom Hearts, I can kind of see like, yeah, if you're bonded, like if say Sora and Riku are in the same party and say they're bonded more, maybe Riku heals Sora more often. Like maybe that's an ability that you get. Maybe like when you're doing a finisher as Sora, there might be like a mini cutscene thing where Riku joins in if you're like even more bonded, things like that, where I think if you choose to be bonded with the character in the story, seeing it reflected in the gameplay, I think can be very satisfying. Because like, yeah, if you're playing and say they have finishers you randomly do with random party members, that's kind of the norm. But if you're, as a player, bonding more with a certain character, and you actually see that being reflected in your gameplay where they're more often helping you out and doing finishers with you, I think is a pretty interesting experience. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about that. Whether they'll have it, like I mentioned, if they have a home base system, I think there is a possibility of it having bonding systems, especially with the themes of Kingdom Hearts. I think it just makes sense. And so hopefully it does become a thing. Let me know if you think this will happen, will not happen. Do you like the idea? I know if I hadn't played Trails of Cold Steel, I would think this idea is kind of dumb. But now that I've experienced it in so many of the Trails games, whenever a Trails game doesn't have it, like for example, I'm playing the newest Trails game and it does not have it, it really feels lacking in terms of that aspect of it. So let me know what you think of that mechanic down below.